Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode. I think this is episode number 4000 of Tell the Damn Story. We'll tell you who we are in a second, but let us explain. The Tell the Damn Story is a story when we talk about aspects of writing, aspects of being a creative, and use some stuff that we've learned to make your journey easier. Chris Ryan spent a ton of time as a journalist and then as a teacher, and now I'm both independently published and traditionally published author of some pop culture stuff, some horror stuff, some supernatural thrillers. So that's
Don't forget the Western.
There is a Western, yes. Thanks, Jim Beard. And this over here, this guy, yeah, I know what you're saying. You say, oh, this cutie. Yes, he was the hottest man in America in 1938. And
Right, it's really warm in here.
that was back when People magazine was only per person magazine. It was a smaller place.
Deep.
But this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is Alex Simmons. He is a writer of all things great. The creator of Blackjack, Aaron Day. The writer for Scooby-Doo and Archie and Batman. He has a couple of stories about your mom that he has to publish yet. So many things. There you go. Please say hello to Alex Simmons.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Chris. How you doing?
And
we got
like those stories about your mom. I'm doing pretty good.
Yes. I'm glad to hear that.
Or someone's mom.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about somebody's mom later. But Chris and I were in the green room charging up for this episode because this episode we're going to be dealing with permission. And no, we're not waiting for your permission. We're talking about you getting permission, or actually giving yourself permission to write, to tell the stories. A lot of our audience is comprised of emerging and aspiring writers, also struggling writers, people who've been at it for a while, but a lot of them are people just stepping out in, or they haven't been out in the world that long in terms of being writers and creatives and pursuing it, whether they're selling anything or not, just even pursuing, putting fingers to the keyboard or pen to paper and writing and telling the stories that are in their head and in their hearts. Okay. And so one of the things we try to do, aside from giving them concrete techniques and tips and things and interviews, if you've been following our 383 odd episodes, you know we have some great people on here sharing their experiences. But the other thing we like to do is talk about some of the head trips we put ourselves through. And in this particular case, we want to talk about the fact that sometimes one of the hardest things for writers to do, getting out the gate, is giving ourselves permission to write.
Yeah.
So
it's, let's start with a little humor.
Okay.
When
A
I was
little
a
bit
kid,
humor.
a little bit. When I was a kid, I read a lot. I always saw my father walking around with a book. So, you copy what you see, right? And I read that. And I read a lot of comics. I love comics. And I saw the credit box. But for some reason, it took me the longest time to realize, one, that human beings wrote those stories and drew those stories, and that they were regular human beings. There wasn't some secret order of high priests of storytelling or anything like that. These schleps making a living, right? And it just took forever for me to give myself permission and to give myself permission to submit to magazines and that kind of stuff. I think when I was a teenager, I submitted once or twice to like Twilight Zone magazine, and then didn't think I was allowed to keep going. Don't make that mistake. Submit early and often and just try. And we'll talk either later in the episode or another episode about rejection and how many different ways you can take that. But saying that you don't have permission is not one you should ever take as an interpretation.
That's absolutely right.
So
things I wanted to do, Chris, is I made a list.
What?
Yes, I made a list.
Have lists.
Well, I wanted to be prepared. Okay. But again, certain key fears keep coming up. And Chris and I, again, have been around for a while. Chris mentioned earlier that he had been a teacher for 30 some odd years. Okay.
30, completely 30. and almost 10 years of a journalist before that. So yeah,
So as a
right on the money.
teacher, in particular, focusing on him as a teacher for those 30 years, he heard a lot. I know he heard a lot of these fears. And I have taught off and on, not as long as Chris, maybe 10, 15 years in particular, but I've taught a lot of workshops and creative writing workshops and comics workshops and things like that with people of different ages. And I've also heard these same fears. So, I mean, first off, there's a fear of rejection. You know,
Yes.
instantly, nobody's going to want this. Nobody's going to like this. Nobody's going to blah, 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 blah. They're going to tar and feather me and ride me out of town on a rail. Right. So there's that. What if it's, maybe here's number two. Maybe I'm
Well,
not.
let's talk about number one first.
Oh, okay. You want to talk about it? Okay. We can
Yeah,
talk about it.
because
Okay.
it opens the door or opens the gate of hell for misinterpretation, right? Oh, I'm not worthy. Or worse, take it personally. Those bastards. They hate me. It's because I'm this. They know secretly somehow know I'm left-handed or that this, oh shit. And it's not anything like that at all. Having published a bunch of people, it's just that it doesn't fit. Like, how often do you make a chocolate cake and add onions? Or Captain Crunch? You don't. It's not that there's anything wrong with onions. Onions are great. There's nothing that's anything wrong for Captain Crunch. Maybe at my age, yes. But it just doesn't fit that recipe, right? So if you're putting an anthology together and there's a certain theme, a certain feel, sometimes the stories you've already read have started to solidify the tone of the book. And then you might get a story. It happens to me a lot. Wow, we really loved your story. The tone isn't what doesn't fit the rest of the stories, but please keep submitting, that kind of thing.
I think a lesson there
can't
is
take that personally. It does.
Yeah.
It's self-defeating.
The thing too is to hear what is being said, to actually hear it, not just get, a riff. Oh, they're turning me down and then start to make up stuff, but
Right.
to actually listen for a reason.
Right. And we've gone through this before, but it is worth going through again. Most of it is email now, right? Okay. But there's a certain kind of emails you get, right? If congratulations, you got accepted, right? But most often you get an editor, and I've done it myself. You pre-write a fairly generic thank you. We loved your story. We are grateful that you submitted, but it doesn't quite fit what we're doing this time. Boom, something like that. And it can be even shorter. You know what message you should take from that? Okay, it didn't quite fit, but they didn't feel strongly about it being an aberration or the most horrific thing, right? And if someone does write that, you can't take that personally. God, yours was the worst. I've heard horror tales about that. If someone ever writes you an email that says, yours was the worst, you should learn how to do grammar, that means that person is an a-hole. And you should be happy that you now know never to submit to that particular editor ever again, because a-hole, right? So usually you get the generic. Thanks for submitting. It showed a lot of promise. It doesn't quite fit what we're doing. Or I also get from our guy from Monstrous Books, I've gotten twice from him. Oh, great story. We have one just like that. We got that twice. God bless him. I love you. So that's what that is, right? But it just means I've got a lot of these to send out. I don't have time to personalize them all. It is not personal, right? Sometimes you get, this was really, really great. It was in the last batch that we were considering. Take that as a compliment. You're really close. Keep going. Just work on the dialogue a little more. Or that's a personal note to you. That's high praise. Even if it's saying you need to work on this, or you need to work on that. They've taken the time that they do not have to give you a personal note. Be thrilled. Make some kind of notation or keep a list. People who do that want to see more work from you. Okay? And while we're here, Alex, let's take a minute Do not respond to a rejection email. This is not an opening of a conversation. This is the closure of a conversation. Take whatever messages they're sending, take the good stuff to fuel where you're going to go next. Just be thankful for the bad stuff. Oh, I never want to see that guy again. Or if it's the generic, okay. And then start looking for where you're going to send that next and send it out within the next 72 hours. That's all the rejection should be about. What's next, sir?
Actually, you covered two. There's a fear of rejection, but also you talked about won't be good enough. I heard you say that. So yeah, we are sometimes afraid that we're not good enough, or the story won't be good enough. In particular, the story won't be good enough. You know, the moment they see it, they'll go, "Oh my God, what are you thinking?" Well, so as I said, you've covered that. So the next
Well,
one is,
wait, let's play with that because we're trying to be informative.
well, okay, okay,
If
all
you
right.
get if you get a story rejected a couple of times, it's a legitimate response to reread it and see, is there something that's, I had this story, I still have it, The Woodsman. And for the longest time, I was like, why is this? And then I found out there is historically somebody known as the Woodsman who was like a pedophile.
Oh,
I got to retitle that. I didn't know. It's sending the wrong message. That's not what that story is about. So that might, sometimes you have
hmm.
sent out the wrong signal, right? And that's just research. And you could do a Google of your title. Maybe there's 5 other stories with that title. You can read it again. We always say read it out loud like you're getting paid $10,000 to $15,000 to read it. Why you do that is because you'll be giving it your best reading, right? You won't be just like where your eye can be tricked. If you're really performing it, you're gonna hear how it sounds. You're gonna stumble over awkward stuff, and then you'll be really paying attention to the story when you're like, wait a second, what happened to Abigail? We talked about Abigail for the first 5 pages, and we never see her again. Oh, story logic problem. Huh? Oh, we killed Bernie on page 4, and he saves the day on page 12. Wait, okay. And then if there's something like that, then you know what to do to prep it. You never have a little baby and just send it out naked, or you don't keep it in the same clothes. You love that baby. You give it a nice wash. You change the diaper. You put a nice clothes on it, and then off you go. Get out there, work in the coal mines, or whatever the baby's going to do. Right? The idea is it's not about you, it's about the story, right? And sometimes, if you see a pattern of rejections, a pass will help. None of these rejections are ever, this story is no longer allowed out of your house. Never. Sir, please. Anything you want to add to that?
No,
Baby in the coal mine, a problem?
I'm not what away from that one.
Yeah, it's not that good. That baby's got a job.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna move on to, sometimes again, it's too personal. What do I show? The thing that's inspiring me is an event that went on in my life, or something that I felt in my life, and it's so personal, but I want to write about it. But what do I don't know. Maybe it's going to be the wrong decision. So once again, we've put up some sort of a roadblock or a series of speed bumps. So what do you want to say
Easy
about
about
that?
that. Oh, you want me to say what
Yeah, yeah, go right ahead.
the first thing I thought about was, I guess over the last 4 or 5 months, I've been involved in a writers group. And it can be a challenge to find a writers group that works. But when you find one, it can be very beneficial because they'll ask questions and they're not as potentially not as emotionally invested in a story as you might be. And they'll say, we talked about this several episodes ago, but I'm working on a novel now. That's one of my current works in progress. And there was a couple people, or one major person, who said, I hate the secondary character. She's a murderer. And you get rid of that bullshit, those nonsense responses, and you go back and say, okay, these are the notes that I took of what they were saying, what doesn't work. And then you go over and you look at whether it's a short story, a poem, or where can I address that? And one of the things that I found was that, yeah, the guy seemed a lot more brave and courageous than he should be at that age. And in that particular situation that he was in, addressable problems. I run to addressable problems because that's when the good stuff happens. I could take this 4-paragraph rant he goes on and knock it down to a paragraph. It still has the same points, but now it's more powerful. Those things are golden days. If it's feeling too personal and you're taking it too personally, a writer's group might help. A good friend who's also a writer might help. My fantastic, glorious wife, she does read all my stuff. She doesn't read it as an edit. I am a little shy. Yeah, I know this is so obvious in the show. But, that's the safety of my home. I am really shy and insecure about the first drafts, so she was a former pre-K teacher. So her whole career was like, "Oh, so good. You did so well. Well, you puked, but you did get to the bathroom before you puked. You're so right." So I do get that first bump of confidence, but then I go to others for more objective editorial comment, right? So God bless her. For some reason, she's blindly attracted to me. So I was very careful not to get that piece of mental illness addressed over the years. Uh, and I shamelessly exploited for my own ego. But after you get past that, find some people who will read it and let you know, and be expected to read their stuff and be as objective as well.
Now, the too personal was actually the writer, although this was some great stuff. The too personal is the writer going, the thing I want to write about may be too personal because it's something that happened to me. It's something I experienced, or it's something that happened to somebody close to me. And I don't know what I should or shouldn't reveal or how I should or shouldn't tell this story. And yet the story is valuable.
Okay. If it feels that strong for you, it is very valuable for a lot of other people out there. There is nothing new under the sun. I think that was Shakespeare, right? Nothing new under the sun, but we make it so. There are a lot of people on this planet, brother, and only a certain number of generic experiences you go through. What makes it unique is your specific experience of it, your reaction to it, your living through it. And we read stories. We hunger for stories for exactly that reason. Stories let us know that we are not alone, that we aren't the only ones who have had our heart broken. We aren't the only ones experiencing the tension of possibly problematic government or
family or
a family issue or this or that. Yes, that's why the romance novel is as popular as it is, because people do want to find love and there is always trouble and they do want to hope that it'll work out. Yes. Or the hero's journey, because every single one of us are on our own hero's journey trying to figure out how to do this thing called existence. So if you feel some story is really personal to you, write it. Make it the best it can be. That means you might have to step back and be a little objective about it. But first, write it from your own burning heart. Don't worry about it, whether it's fantastic. I always say, let it suck. Get that first draft out and then go and craft it as best you can and get it to like, wow, this is the best version of this story. And then you might let someone you trust read it and this and that. Yeah, if it's too personal, that means it's universal. Go turn on a radio. Listen to the love songs. They say, I love you. They're not talking to the person listening to the radio. They're talking to everybody listening to the radio. And actually, they're writing about the person they actually loved. But it's universal. Remember the Temptations? Remember the Temptations?
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Ball of confusion. Everybody was feeling that back then, right? I know I'm losing you. Oh, God, how many times have everybody felt those things? I wish it would rain, right? A man's not supposed to cry, but I just want to go out so the rain will hide my tears, right? The reason why the Temptations are still remembered and why you felt so good when I mentioned their name is because they sang truth. And the name Billie Eilish, right? She's more modern, or Post Malone, whatever the style is. The reason that those people are attracting your attention is because they're tapping into a truth.
Let
Same
me
thing with
jump in
Stephen
on
King.
this one
Same
here,
thing with Sherlock Holmes. Same
because
thing with Alex Simmons.
you mentioned the Temptations, and you mentioned in particular that song, I Wish It Would Rain. And it's funny you should mention that because that ties in actually very well to this particular circumstances topic that we are exploring at this moment. Uh,
Smooth, babe.
I learned recently, and I've checked it twice. So, maybe I should check it a third time, but either way, here it goes. There was a young songwriter working at Motown at the time that the Temptations were recording there. And this person had written some other stuff, so they knew his work and they recorded some of his stuff. And this was good. It's all good. And he was madly in love. He was in his early 20s. He was madly in love with the woman of his life, the most wonderful woman in the world.
I
And
know that feeling.
and they got married, and he was just over the moon happy until he found out that she'd been cheating on him.
Uh,
And
I've
basically,
been there too. Not with Glorious, but I've been
yeah, it basically cheating on him, not even to the level of, okay, it was a casual one night kind of thing. It was something that was involved, and it destroyed him.
whole other relationship.
And so he wrote that song. And that song they recorded, the Temptations recorded, and it topped the charts.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to find out. And so when you talk about too personal, what do I show? What do I reveal? In his case, his pain was so intense that he did write it out, and he left that message. And as
Did
I
he
said,
take his own
unfortunately, I
life?
didn't get to see that it went out there and it reached so many people,
Well,
touched so many people.
did he die of natural causes, or did he
No.
took his own life? That's sad. But that does not negate the power of the story or the song.
Exactly.
I just wish he had just waited long enough to see what it would do.
Yeah. Well, I think, it would be great if he had waited long enough to get over the loss. Right. But what I will add to that is the other, so you get a tragedy. He didn't get to see it
Please add
succeed.
something, Debbie Downer.
He didn't get to see it succeed. He didn't get to get over or somehow move on and beyond that pain. But he also didn't get to see that song touched so many souls.
Yeah.
And helped so many people.
It would have made a
Generation after
difference.
generation. So
Yeah. It
once
would have made a
again,
difference. And so would your story.
sometimes they're too personal. It may be hard for you. It may be scary for you. But if you can get past it and get it written out, it will go out there and you have no idea what it can do for others.
Now, I'll give you a second example that is a little better of an ending. And this person's reputation has suffered in the last couple of years. So we're going to remove that. Okay. But in the very late 60s, early 70s, Eric Clapton fell in love.
God. Yes.
He fell in love with George Harrison's wife. He couldn't get over it. He was so head over heels, and it was causing him pain. As a blues musician, he understood that you put music to the pain, right? So he just had formed a new band, Derek and the Dominoes, and they recorded a double album, Layla and assorted other love songs. Every note on that album, for Eric anyway, was written for her. Right. I mean, Dwayne Allman is on there too, and he wasn't in love with her, but he was playing the moments, right? But for Eric, and here's the twist, and then we'll talk about George for a second. He excitedly brings it over and plays the whole thing for her. And she said, well, it sounds nice. And didn't understand. George did.
Oh dear.
And he stepped aside. And you love her, man. Go ahead. And he was with, Eric was with her for a long time, and they had a relationship. It didn't last forever. But Layla and assorted other love songs, that lasted forever. And that is still regarded as one of the best blues rock broken heart albums. You put that on when you've been dumped, or in this case, cheated on. And yeah, you got a lot of stuff. Oh, wow, I'm not alone. This guy too. Yeah. Oh. Have you ever loved a woman? Oh, Bell Bottom Blues. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So same thing happens. Post Malone used to have friends. Now I have enemies. Got a little success, and people either were trying to cash in or started treating him different. You know, when Alex Simmons started becoming legendary Alex Simmons, the deal, he really had a deal, ladies and gentlemen. And, that's what we're here to talk about today.
We're going to move on.
How to get through that.
Okay, so, I'm going to actually jump and just tag the next three, because we sort of expanded on the other, the first four rather extensively. So
Yes, sir.
It's sort of repetitious. It might sound stupid. Another one is a fear of judgment in general. Just, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of my story? And then, or I might hurt some feelings with this story. So this is, these are like three other categories or topics or feelings or reactions that we might put up as, again, speed bumps or roadblocks to getting on the highway and writing that story, taking off and seeing where it goes, where it takes us.
So
Now,
stupid.
Excuse me?
Stupid. I forgot the middle one, and then might hurt.
Fear of judgment, overall judgment, right? And then might hurt some feelings, right? Might hurt some feelings. Again, you just told the story about George and Eric. Plays a song for the guy's wife. The wife doesn't, but the
Not a
guy,
song.
the husband,
An entire double album.
yeah, the husband goes, oh, snap, you're that in love with my wife? Bing.
Most people are not going to be George Harrison, but yeah.
You take your chances. What? You pay your price and you take your chances.
Very quickly about Stupid. If you've been
very
watching
quickly, very quickly. Okay.
If you've been watching this show for any amount of time, you know I love Stupid. I have no problem with Stupid. Fear of judgment. Everybody gets judged. Best to be judged on your feelings, on what you think is purely you, and then hurting someone else's feelings. That's where rewriting comes in. What do I do? What do I not do? How am I true to the story? How do I serve the story and not absolutely slaughter somebody?
Well, here's the other thing too. If it does, you have to stand and take responsibility for that.
But there's other ways to do it.
No, that's true. But if we're going to do the spectrum thing, then again, any of those possibilities are on the table, and
you have to ask yourself why you're writing.
If you're authentic and you're not doing it to be mean-spirited and nasty and so forth and so on, yeah, okay, that's one thing. If you are, okay, that's another lane to go down.
Yeah.
And if you were just truthful and it went out there and people had that reaction, then you're standing in your center.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but there are other ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember Hall & Oates, Daryl Hall, that You're a Rich Girl?
Yeah.
That was about a guy. That was about his girlfriend at the time's ex, who was just such a jerk that the song came out of it. But it worked better as a girl. So that's when you go creative license. So there's a million ways to address it.
Well, you got Carly Simons, You're So Vain.
Mm-hmm. There's still a mystery, although we have a number one suspect.
Yes, we do.
Who that song's about.
Right, exactly. Okay. So now, Chris.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go into the woods here. We're going to go into the woods where there'd be bars. There'd be bars and lions and tigers. And
I don't mind a bar.
And all we got
It's
is
the
a
bear that I have a problem with.
all we have is a Bowie knife here. And it's getting dark.
Would that be a David Bowie?
No,
Yeah,
just a Bowie knife.
See?
Nice
Being
kid.
stupid.
Nice kid. Bowie knife.
All right, go ahead.
You took on a project. And again, this is about writing the hard stuff and fear of rejection and considering when the story might be too personal or might have some negative responses coming at it. You took on a project and it just published it recently. So now I have 5 questions spinning around that project. And I'm going to say the name of the project in a moment.
Okay.
But what I wanted to focus on first is I'm going to name the 5 questions, and we're going to go back and deal with them, and we're going to mention the project.
Okay.
The 5 questions, first off, it's 6 questions. It's how do you come up with the topic, right? What questions go through your mind once you've come up with something like that? The debate with yourself or with others, how do you handle that? Because again, hot topic, difficult story, whatever it's going to be, there's going to be a debate. Do I do this or not? Once you make the decision to go forward, what happens? How do you deal? How do you move? Are there any fears that you encounter along the way while pursuing this? And then the last question will be, okay, it's out there. You published it. Now watch and wait for what? So let's start with A.
Well,
The actual project was called America, We Have to Talk. Correct? Yes. Here we go. America, We Need to Talk. Okay? By Chris Ryan.
Oh, that cover is a picture of a house around the corner from my house.
Yes. People come looking for you. They'll spot that house. Okay.
So he got a new flag, but
yeah. First off, how did you choose the topic?
I had written my first book of poetry. It's been a privilege. And while on the surface that is about sociopath, underneath it's about a sociopath. And that's that real life sociopath's effect on the country. So the metaphor extended. And I finished, I thought I was done with the topic. And it shows me it wouldn't leave. There was still a need. As creatives, I think we can recognize that happens. So how I chose was, well, how do you tell it? Because I already told it one way. How do you tell it? What is it that you want to say? And the title came, America, We Need to Talk. And I don't know if I recognized that there was an Instagram post that had the same name, or whether that was subliminal, or whether it came up on its own. It doesn't matter. If so, thank you for them. But when I got that title, so, well, in what context? Then I realized, who would you say that to? If I had to say, Glorious, we need to talk, then I know it's going to be one of those where we sit down and the TV's not on, and we're not scrolling through, right? We're paying attention. I said, okay. And I didn't want it to be a yelling, screaming argument. I said, well, why don't you take America out to a nice restaurant? And then it became, oh, wait a minute. This is a breakup date. We've all been on that one where we're going to have that talk. And depending on how that talk goes, either we're going to give this relationship another try or it's going to break up. And when I realized that, the poetry started flowing in that context. And everything I wanted to say about the things of current America that were keeping me up at night, the things that were haunting me, the things that were hitting deeply, because I grew up, in a house. My father was a conservative Republican, 2-time Army veteran, lifelong New York City cop. This was a conservative man. And what he taught me was not, you must be a conservative. He taught me about the idea of America and the promise of America. And when I met Glorious at a U2 concert, well, U2 always talks about the idea of America. So that is always, I've always seen multiple points of view about that. And it's a core belief of mine that whether you're a farmer or school teacher or independent writer or whatever, it feeds into that idea, that promise of America. I understand it's mythic. I've spoken to so many people who said, yeah, I wasn't as embraced by the idea of America as other groups in America. And I understand that too. So that became part of it. And well, then how do you have that conversation? So I really was treating the idea of America as my date, my long-term partner, who this might be the last dinner we go to together. And then I did my second thing, which is usually my number one rule: just write, let it suck, get it all out, and have faith in yourself that the rewriting process will take care of anything that's messy or doesn't work out or whatever. I hope that answered that question.
So you actually touched on four.
I am simply amazing, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Okay.
Or try to be efficient, because I know some of you have to go and finish cooking dinner.
So we're gonna go back just a wee bit, just to tighten up. You told us how you chose the topic and what that point of inspiration was. You also touched on some of the questions that went through your mind after you began to realize, okay, this is not going to go away. This is something I have to look at truly. You also mentioned the debate that you had with yourself about how to approach this, what
Yeah.
voice and what style. Did you have a dialogue with anybody else
Well, I always have a
trying to make a
dialogue.
decision about this?
I always have a dialogue with Glorious. And again, I must stress that I'm cheating, because she comes at everything with love. She's Sicilian. She's a mom. She was a pre-K teacher for forever. So it's always that kind of embracing.
Was she Noah's pre-K teacher?
I think so. I'm not sure. That's because she's eternal and immortal, not
Mhm.
ancient like you. It's a whole different thing.
Someone had to be ancient.
No, the reason for approaching Glorious with it is because she is a extremely generous, an extremely generous sounding board. I have some other people who will say, you're included. Well, that's good, but how about this? You know, but if you can find somebody, and it might even be yourself, that lets you say what you're thinking out loud. Don't say the whole story, because sometimes that diffuses energy. And some writers will say, never say a word until the project's done. If that works for you, fantastic. I do like to see, because she'll never say no, but I know her face so well
Mm.
that I'll see the little changes, and then I'll ask her gently, not comfortable with it. I said, well, but it allows me to expand.
So you bounce it off of at least
A few,
other person.
a few people, and I keep most of it to myself. It's just the pitch. So a pitch should be 25 words or less. So think of it that way. So
Okay.
it's like, I'm thinking of writing a book of poetry where I take America out to dinner for what might be the breakup conversation, and see the reaction to that. And there you go.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So you make a decision to go forward and you start writing.
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
The projects always make the decision for me. I'm supported by this from the great Stephen King. No, he's never talked to me personally, never met him. But he famously says, you'll have a couple ideas, always have a couple ideas in your head, and let them fight it out. So I had a bunch of different things going on, but this one would not let me go. It wasn't as severe as It's Been a Privilege, but it was as insistent as some of the novels I wrote. It would just pester me. That's when I knew I had to do something with it.
Okay. All right. Any fears along the way?
Hell yes. But right from the cover, it's about America tearing itself apart. Think of Jimmy Kimmel. Think of all that stuff that's trying to happen now, where you're no longer allowed to say an opinion we don't like. Well, I don't know what the hell opinions you don't like, but honestly, that doesn't matter. It cannot outweigh how someone feels outside in this country. Still to this day, it's not illegal to write. That might eventually come forward. And then that's a whole different kettle of.
But then we put on
really,
the black outfit, we ride the horse, and we pull out our swords. Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Ride by
But
night.
we're not there yet. And Kimmel going back on the air may be a turning point. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
How did you deal with the fear?
Well, there's two things that are competing. The compulsion to write versus the fear. I always give in to the compulsion. And here's why. There's no one knocking on my door. Well,
Oh, goodness.
right?
Froze.
I know who I am.
Wait, I got to tell you, literally, you said there's no one knocking on my door, and then you froze.
Okay. There's no one knocking on my door saying, what are you doing today? We're so interested in you. We want to know every single. No, that's not happening. I know who I am, right? I put stuff out there, and if it finds somebody, I'm grateful. So that gives me a little freedom. So compulsion wouldn't let me go. Fear needs an audience. I will tell you that now that it's out, and now that Soul Scream Antholocene Fear and Loathing is out, which you can see somebody we know dressed as Uncle Sam holding the burning globe, the stories in there are to some degree politically
inflammatory
and inflammatory. Yes. So there's concerns about marketing, but that's after the fact. There's concerns about how do I put it out there without getting ferocious backlash. If they say that sucks, you're terrible. Have you read it? We'll see what happens with that. But I'm not at that level, so that allows me a certain freedom. I'm not like the guy who created blackjack. Come on.
Well, let's actually go there, because you're now at that last one. It's out there. Now watch and wait what happens. And both books are out there. And you made a comment just a moment ago. You said something about marketing. The fear is in marketing, or the apprehension is in the marketing.
Right. Well, I am trying to find the best way to get beyond the overwhelming number of books that are out there. And how do I get this to the people who may not know it yet, but need to read it or want to read it, or it will do them some good. So I've been educating myself about the different avenues and trying things to get it out there, knowing that there's a chance that it might get some negative reviews or this or that. And honestly, I'll burn that bridge when we come to it,
Okay.
But I mean, at what point? It's the same thing with Jimmy Kimmel. You have that freedom of speech. Also, most TVs come with a remote. And if you're scrolling through Amazon and you come across this and you say, oh my God, this is terrible.
Move on.
Go on to the next. Read a sample. If you think it's hellacious, you communist pinko, then that's not the book for you. There's a billion others, and life is short. Go read what you want to read, but if you're looking for a fight, that says more about you. That's the same kind of, you give that as much credence as you give the person who puts personal insults in the rejection letter. Oh, they're just letting me know they're an a-hole. And then off you go.
And A does not
when it
stand for
comes to the
amazing.
time where ICE is knocking on your door because they don't like where you put the comma, well, then we're in a different country.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to succumb to that until we start hearing the sledgehammers knocking on the locks, and we'll see what happens. But that's
So let us bring this around full circle. So we were talking about giving yourself permission to put the story out there, to write the story first and foremost, and then to put the story out there. And we've talked about it in general, and now we've talked about it in terms of a specific experience. What is an overall rule that you live by?
One of the rules that I kept running into in my formative years, which were about 50 in length, was writer's right. What it never said is what you write. You write what's in you. And, if we talk about the Stephen King guidance, you write what won't let you alone, what bugs you, right? It's a process of getting that out. And then I don't think that it's fair to you or anyone else to put guardrails up about that, especially now. Do I think you should go on tirades and, condemn, you know, um, a certain public figure who plagiarized a Goebbels speech last weekend? Well, you got social media for that. Go ahead, knock yourself out if you want to be that kind of person. But I'm finding less and less use for that, whether I receive it or whether I write it myself. What are you doing? We're talking about art here, whether it's poetry or a short story or a novel or a dirty limerick. Oh, wait a minute. That's a different thing. Then you're writing more for a longer time span, a longer lifespan. I have no delusions that my writing is immortal or any of that stuff or important, but I aspire to make it as purely from my heart and soul as I can. And that's all you can do. And that is your job. It isn't your job to self-censor or self-reject. Those are mistakes. You got to be true to you. Well, why write at all? Go play racquetball or pickleball. Go ahead. No one is ever upset about pickleball. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. But if you want to write, you got to write what's in here and what keeps this awake at night. There's a little bit of Lon Chaney Jr. in all of us, Moon comes out, I become a wolf. For us, when my mind wakes up, I become a writer.
Yes. I was
I
thinking,
was bitten by a book.
I was thinking more of his father. Sanctuary.
Yes. And in a very real way, yes,
Yeah.
writing is sanctuary for those of us who have been blessed/cursed with it.
Yep.
I mean, if it's part of who you are, and if you're going to be true to yourself, you must write.
And on that note, we will say that is our episode for today. Ooh, I rhymed.
Really?
Okay.
No.
That was an accident. No, thank you. I hope, folks, that this was of Mongo use to you, not just some use to you, but of Mongo use to you. How we approach it is how we approach it. Obviously, you will find this topic on the lips of many, but I would hope that, again, you take some of this to heart because that's where it came from as far as we're concerned.
Amen.
The heart, something for the head. Okay. And next week, another thrilling episode of, and we will be back next week. Can you think about this, Chris? 383 or 84 episodes of you and I talk. We're getting old doing this.
That's okay. What other way would you like to get old?
Well,
We're not, I don't think it would be easy for us to say, well, if someone threw $1 billion at us, it's not going to change.
no. It would. I would buy an island and we would be doing this on the island while sipping Mai Tais. I'm sorry. I got to tell you that.
I would visit that island, but
yeah, of course, we wouldn't live there.
Yeah, I want to live my life. This is what we do.
You have these tell the damn story getaways.
That would be cool to be able to finance that for people. And let's come on.
Yeah, come to the island and
Yeah.
tell your stories. Yes, a writer's retreat. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Now we just need one of you out there to
Write the check.
PayPal us $1 billion and then you will be our first guest.
Oh boy, forever.
Tell the damn story, Island Retreat. This is
Okay.
gonna wind up like Soupy Sales, where some kid's gonna go into his parents' pocketbook and we're in trouble.
I've come to linoleum. Yes. Okay. Chris, as always, a pleasure.
Always an honor.
Next week.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Peace. Long and prosper.
Yes, that too. Right, with the runaway finger.